27.
26.
25 seconds.
24. 23.
22 seconds.
21 seconds.
20 seconds.
19.
18. 17 seconds.
16.
15 seconds.
14.
13 seconds.
12. 11.
10 seconds. 9.
8. 7. 6. Copy.
5 seconds.
3, 2,
1.
Hello and welcome to Subspace Chatter, where we boldly go into discussing the third and new season of Star Trek Lower Decks. Today we're going to be discussing the second episode, The Least Dangerous Game. We go around and introduce ourselves first. I am Scott, host of the YouTube channel Opinions No One Cares About.
I'm Bob Vossler. I'm the host of Spaced Out and member of Starfleet and the chapter chairman of the USS Challenger in Region 7.
I'm Eve, and I am the director of the Starfleet Academy College of Music and part of the USS Chinook in Region 10.
And yet I'm the one who does this least in my spare time, and I'm the one hosting. Anyway. All right, so let's get to the questions. So this episode starts with a Klingon board game, which is a clear reference to an old Star Trek VHS game that I'm afraid I don't know the name of. Do you guys know?
No, but I know the one you're talking about.
Okay. And obviously it's also kind of like basically Klingon D&D, which is awesome. But in world, is it a bit problematic maybe to dress up as another race like Boimler did with the Klingon wig?
I don't think so, because nothing's really meant by it other than he's just getting into character. I mean, and it's not like he made obvious attempts to go all Klingon. I mean, would it be any different really than dressing up as a Klingon to go to the Comic-Con? Realistically, I don't think it's that way.
Galactic,
Yeah,
now,
that's true.
I think if he was running around, saying that that's what a Klingon looks like or something, we might.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I think he was just getting into character because, I mean, even when I played D&D and MTG and stuff, you get the odd person who likes to dress up a little bit. And it kind of fits with Boimler's personality.
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
He really doesn't like to be seen. He wants to be seen, but he doesn't want to be seen, sort of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, especially like at this point in the episode before he's decided to, be bold Boimler.
Exactly, yeah. So for him, maybe it helps get him into the headspace because let's face it, Boimler as a Klingon, nobody's buying that.
No, unless, it was last season in Wedge Doge when we actually saw the Klingon version of Boimler.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was just a little bit, not necessarily jarring. It's just anytime we see someone on Trek pretending to be another race, it's usually for like spying purposes or whatever. So
that's true.
It's nice to see him, without an ulterior motive, just trying to enjoy a game.
Yeah, to me, it reminded me a little bit of Naomi Wildman in Voyager when she's first getting used to 7 of 9 and she turns to Neelix and she pretends she's been assimilated or whatever.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of that.
Okay.
Like, just, it was innocent. I don't think Boimler had...
I don't think in that day and age there is, galactic assimilation. I don't think that there's... I mean, let's face it, in holodeck programs, I'm sure people are pretending to be other races. I mean, and I think it's accepted. I don't think it's a touchy subject at that point in time because everybody is, embracing, various different cultures and races and or not only understanding of it, but love the differences and the similarities.
Yeah.
I mean, too, it reminds me a little bit of Data when they play poker and Data has the green visor like a dealer. I mean, he really doesn't need it, but it's true. Data getting into character. So, I mean, it's not the first time we've seen that in Star Trek where they're playing a game and somebody's in character.
Right.
Worf and his son, Alec. Alexander, as cowboys.
Yeah.
Fistful of dividends.
I'm beginning to see the appeal of this program.
Yes.
Not at.
All right. Okay, so so one of the things I actually like about this episode, you don't get the traditional Boimler and Mariner pairing and Tendi Rutherford pairing. They switched it up, and then everybody kind of split off and did their own thing. But I did notice Tendi has been kind of underutilized in the past 2 episodes. Like, they haven't given her a lot to do. Do you think the next one will be more focused on her?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be her turn. If not next episode, then the following one, or maybe they'll give her a little bit more to do in the story B section, because they seem to be doing split stories, much like Next Gen. Yep. So, I think she'll get her chance to shine. Mm-hmm. She's been a good support character, but now I think she'll get her own story.
Yeah,
pretty soon. I have to agree, especially because they made a big deal about her in the first few episodes being one of the first Orions and one of the few Orions in the fleet, and her wanting to break the Orion stereotypes and stuff. Yep. So to me, they'd be leaving a huge, not just a thread dangling, but a whole ball there if they don't do something with it. I think I think they're trying to figure out too exactly what her place is going to be, because I get the sense that they had Mariner and Boimler figured out pretty well, but Rutherford and Tendi, they're still trying to kind of figure out what they're doing with them yet, is what I feel.
Right.
She has her whole new role. She's been now put into sciences in a senior science position, or not in a senior science position, but a senior science training position, I believe. So they're probably going to focus on some type of science based storyline where she gets to, look into some things, almost like an Uhura episode with, from Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to see something somewhat like that, in the realm of sciences for her, and working with whoever their science chief is. And I forgot who that was, if they have even shown one. But, it'll be an interesting episode, I'm sure.
Yeah, I have to agree, because they've been slowly taking each character a little bit at a time. I mean, we got to see Boimler with the whole him on the Titan and everything else. So we got sort of a Boimler story. We've gotten definitely more of a Mariner story these past couple episodes. Yeah. So I could see it being, Rutherford and Tendi are up next, which makes sense rather than trying to stuff 4 stories into one episode.
Very true. Yeah, I think they were kind of hinting at it when Tendi herself mentioned that she was, she never thought that she'd be like in the senior science division. And I think that was about the point I was looking at it, and I realized, wait a minute, they haven't done anything with that yet. Now, granted, they're only 2 episodes in, but I think it's about time. Yes, let's get a little more serious. Is Mariner's effort to cover her tracks after disobeying ransom an effort to at least try to be compliant with orders, or does she still think she knows better than her commanding officer?
Column A, column B. Mariner's not so flat of a character as to be just that bullheaded. I think she really is trying to comply, but she really doesn't know how, in a way, because she's been a rebel all along. Like, that's how she defines herself, by going against the grain, going against what everyone wants. Yet here she was actually trying to make an effort, even though she doesn't respect ransom.
Not a bit.
No. So, I mean, that's why I say I think it's column A, column B. Partly, she's trying to comply, but the other part is really she doesn't respect him, so she's going to do her own thing and F him.
Yeah.
That really is Mariner. She really does not. She's kind of like an Ensign Rowe that way.
Oh, yeah.
Plus in this episode, she was grudgingly disagreeing with Ransom, but being respectful and doing the pipe work and doing all that, only to the point where she was starting to get concerned of the safety of her 2 shipmates. Did she actually go about, leaving the what were they? Not the giant elevator. What were they? What was it actually called?
Orbital
Orbital lift.
Yeah.
It's no
Only to that point did it. Did she really flat out disobey? Because she was concerned, and so I think she is attempting to, just as Eve said, she's attempting to, but it's a rough road.
That is willfully disobedient. Like when she's being disobedient, it's hard to be upset because she's being disobedient because she's sure what she's doing is right. Like,
yeah, it's for the right reason.
And she's always putting like her, she's putting her teammates first. Like she really does look out for the others in her group and stuff like that. So it's hard to get mad at her for being like that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes she is right, and we've all been in that situation where we know the higher up is a moron and isn't right, and we've just got to take matters into our own hands and figure it out later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how much respect can you have for someone who can't remember to decouple the flow inverters?
Exactly.
Oh, you guys working that in. But yeah, I mean, we've seen Mariner this whole time. She's sometimes doing the wrong thing, but absolutely for the right reasons. And unfortunately, it's getting her in trouble to the point where she's got to have somebody watching her because she's on her absolute last chance. But I think, she's making it clear that she doesn't want to leave Starfleet. Kind of per our conversation last week, I don't even know, well, until I left anyway, I don't think even she knows what she would do if she was going to leave Starfleet. So she's towing the line where she can, but Ransom is not making it easy for her. But she's still going to try and do whatever she can, to stay on his good side, because he's got basically her career in his hands. Oops.
Yeah, and he's watching her. He's watching her very carefully, just to, as soon as she does mess up, he's going to be right on her. So, to the point where I think he made the mistake, where he was, where he ended up tripping himself up, and then ended up having to apologize to her at the end of the episode. So I think that was very ironic.
Anybody get the sense that maybe Ransom might have been a Mariner when he was younger?
I think that's what we're going to say.
Oh, yeah.
I think that later on.
And that could be why the big clash between them, because he's seeing himself back in the day, and she doesn't realize that he was her. Like, I kind of got that sense, and that would be fitting for Star Trek. Like,
very true. Yeah.
They've done the sins of the father thing before, and I just get that sense that, kind of like when Picard led on to Ensign Ro, that he knew she was going to be the way she was, because as we found out, even Picard had his bad boy phase when he was younger, which is how that's how he got his fake heart.
Mm-hmm.
And
we've already seen that Ransom is probably as much of a Kirk worshiper as as Mariner is. He loses his shirt almost every episode. So obviously there's a point to
right. Kirk. For a Starfleet uniform, that came apart really easily.
Yeah,
but have you noticed that was the case with Kirk's too? It was like every chance they could get, they were showing him off.
Mm-hmm. And early stuff.
Well, this is a thinner material. I told you. It's very comfortable. Yeah. I don't want to.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a couple of questions that are more about the plot. Why did Ransom wait to brief everyone until they were on the shuttlecraft? I mean, they have briefing rooms. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this seemed to me a lot like an as you know conversation, where they're basically just telling people things they already know so that the audience can keep up.
Either that or it was a writing mistake, because you're right, it doesn't make sense. Typically, you'd give the briefing first, because then anybody who objects or anything can state their objection or whatever. It doesn't make sense to pile them all into the shuttle and then to brief. So I think you could be right there that either it's just for the audience to keep up, or the writers just kind of goofed on this one because it's a cartoon and maybe we're taking it too seriously.
Maybe.
Yeah, I would go along with that. I think that it was a conscious decision to simply go with the flow with it, and just do the briefing, in the shuttle just to make it easier. As opposed to another scene and then move them to the shuttle and all that. They, it was just, remember, they only have about a half hour to play with in this. So we tend to forget that sometimes because so many things are happening. But I think for the purposes of the story flow, that's why this was done, and to make it more immediate.
Yeah, and I suppose, if they had briefed earlier and Ransom had the decision to switch the jobs of the engineers and the diplomats, he probably would not have heard the end of it from Mariner until they were all the way to the orbital lift.
Right, it would have lost some of its impact,
Yeah.
So this way, it was more of a say what we're going to do what we're going to do this and they're going to do that. That makes no sense,
Yeah. Okay, so I got to admit, I came up with this question. I did come up with this question last night. Forgot to bring it up to everybody. Did Captain Freeman know about Cranch's hunting methods when Boimler was begging her for help?
It's a good question.
Yeah, because, he comes up to her, tells her he's being hunted, and she's like, okay, we need to get security on this. Nobody's hunting my crew members. He's like, yeah, it's this guy Krantz. Oh, Krantz? I know him. You have to let him hunt you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think she was about to let him die, so she must have known what was going on.
I could see that because I could see that she might have known that and she allowed it to happen, probably because a good captain would know something about their officers, even the lower deckers. So she's got to know Boimler tends to have a stick up his butt. And really, he reminds me of Harry Kim when Janeway says, relax before you sprain something. Because Boimler's such a yes man and I think, honestly, I think that was a case of her allowing it to happen to get him to loosen up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could see her doing that. Between Mariner's parents, she has to get her impishness from somebody, and I get the sense it's from the mom, not the dad. So yeah. I could totally see her mom being like, "Oh yeah, I know what he does. Let him hunt you. This will be good for you. This will be a growth moment."
This is a learning experience.
Yeah, I don't think she would have allowed it otherwise.
Yeah. Eve, you just mentioned, you said yes, man, and I think if you've seen the movie, then this whole thing that Boimler is doing is probably brought up, the Jim Carrey movie Yes Man, where he did that same thing. He's just saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking, do you guys think that kind of thing works out in real life? Because I know there are people, like, there are programs and seminars that go around that tell you, say yes to life more often. But when you have it in fiction like this, it's really more contrived so that things are going to work out. Like I don't think for a second that anytime I was watching this, I thought that Boimler saying yes to something was ultimately going to work out badly until he was getting hunted. But even then, he's a main character on the show. Like, there's a good chance he wasn't going to be killed.
Yeah.
But they also could have pulled some, Star Trek technobabble to bring him back.
Or switch universes like Harry Kim or, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of ways of bringing people back in Star Trek. You can never assume somebody's truly dead until they're fired off into space.
And even then, they might land on the Genesis planet.
Exactly.
Well, in these kind of stories, they always go overboard at first. Like, oh, I'm going to change everything and I'm going to, go the reverse of what I normally do. And then they go overboard until they realize, as was the case here, I should think about it more than, maybe not be what I once was, but maybe not go to the other extreme on a regular basis. So,
right.
But for comedic purposes, it certainly worked out. But I don't think the captain realized that the boomerangs were going to be scraping up the interior of the walls there, of the corridors. Yeah. So she may have known that it was going to end up being less, not lethal for him, but at the same time, she probably should have warned him that, hope you run fast,
Yeah, right.
It's going to be a real test of your athleticism.
Yeah. Okay, so this planet. Okay, how many like different references to past episodes and tropes were there on this planet?
Oh, I immediately thought of that same race that we talked about last week, where Wesley,
Yep.
crossed on the grass,
Okay.
and got himself in trouble. So I immediately, I mean, they even looked a little like them.
That's
so,
true. Yeah.
But it was that, and I don't know, the Vol people from the classic, Trek.
Yep.
I don't know. I'll have to go back and look because every time I rewatch these episodes, I find more Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Like every time you see something, like every time you rewatch, you'll be like, "Oh, wait, that was a reference to that, and that was a reference to that." If we were to go and find every Easter egg in every episode, we'd probably find it's nothing but a basket of Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
I think the sentient volcano was new, though. I don't know if I remember something like that.
The original series had a mountain that was, they had the mountain that was somewhat sentient.
Mm-hmm.
And when Kirk's and them visited, and they ended up upsetting the whole society that way. So yeah, they kind of have had this sentient volcano thing,
right? Okay, you know what? Let's pad this out a bit. I'll throw out a question at random. What was your guys' favorite scene?
I actually liked seeing Mariner with her dad because we really don't see him. Or am I thinking the episode before?
Yeah,
I think that was before, but
I might be thinking one before. Yeah,
I like the hunt. That was very funny. The various scenes of the hunt.
Yeah, I like the ending where the end of the hunt, by the way. Boimler's decided, he's not taking this anymore. You get a mini montage of him weaponing up. He's going to go take the fight to Krantz. And he goes out, all that macho posture, and bam, spear in the chest.
Yeah.
Very Indiana Jones, actually.
Very Boimler.
Yeah.
He's like the character you see in every novel who's the walking arsenal and gets taken out by like some random stray weapon.
Right.
And I liked how Krantz went opposite the whole trope and said, that's what they all do. They all try to be the hunters. And, yes. Yeah, that's true. We all see it that way, from Ripley all the way down to, all the Predator movies. And, he actually acknowledged the trope and said, yeah, I don't care.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like I was saying, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indy's there with that guy standing there swinging his scimitar around. He's just bang.
Yeah.
Excellent scene.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if we're going to sum up, how many pips out of 5 would you rate this episode?
I'd say, I enjoyed this episode. I didn't think it was spectacular, but I thought it was as I was saying before we started, I felt this show was your typical Lower Decks episode. It hit all the marks. It was funny. It had some memorable things, but I didn't see it. I think I'm going to give it a 3.
3's good. Right.
I would tend to agree it's a 3. I mean, there was a lot of fun stuff. There was a lot of cool things, but when it comes to furthering the story itself, it really doesn't have, most of what happened really isn't going to have much of an impact on the overall story. To me, this seemed like it was a little bit more of a fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where it was put in to fill out a few things, have a little fun, kind of like the Magnificent Ferengi and some of the other episodes we saw in other series that are more, they don't have a huge impact on the overall story, just a fun diversion.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, actually, DS9.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I would probably go with 3.5. I was good with the way they used the tropes. like seeing character growth for Boimler that I hope sticks around. Actually, I'm hoping we see more of bold Boimler. Maybe not constantly saying yes to everything, but learning in moderation. And like I was saying earlier, I like how the ensigns split off into different groups and then split and did their own things. Did want to see a little more of Tendi more than just guiding Boimler into doing what he wanted to do. But yeah, I'd say a good 3.5 pips. And we actually got a question from Dan, who unfortunately couldn't be here. He's saying, was it too soon to see the Dolphins return? I think I commented on it in somebody else's review, actually.
It kind of fit the scene now, as he's running through, the ship for Sanctuary, and then he ends up there. I was worried about them, getting caught in the way, So I didn't. I thought it was kind of cute to see them actually again.
I actually like seeing them because technically they've always been there. We've just never seen them. So,
right.
I kind
of.
And
they don't get much action because they're pretty much stuck there. So.
Every time I see him, my first thought is so long and thanks for all the fish. But
yes. I don't know. I bet they could do a double backflip for a hoop while whistling the Star Spangled Banner if they wanted to.
Probably.
Yeah. Oops. Okay. So this is kind of a short one, but I guess that was all the questions. So we hope you, our viewers, have enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments section what you thought about this episode, this new episode of Lower Decks. Please remember to like and subscribe to the video, and we'll see you next time. And assuming I can do this without the green screen getting in the way, check you later.